righty, folks, we are going to talk money. We are going to talk math. Yes, folks, Cody leads a Gen Z accountability call every Saturday morning inside school. And some people were wondering, what numbers or what metrics does Cody care about? Cody asked me what numbers I care about. So I thought we should bat this around a little bit, talk about the math, figure out if you need an advanced worksheet with multiple tabs and all the calculations, or should it just be on the back of a napkin? Cody, why don't you do me a favor, set this up, set up your Gen Z Plus call, and let's get into the math.
Yeah, well, we meet every week on Saturdays, 8 a.m. Pacific, and we're going through people's goals and things that people need help with. And one of the things that someone brought up was getting a really good understanding of the numbers.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that I don't know how to do, but one of the things I've gotten pretty good at is the numbers, making sure that if I buy something, I'm not going to be negative tomorrow.
No alligators, right, Cody?
Yeah, no alligators. Been there, done that. It's not fun.
No.
I think it's really not fun. It's fun getting the deal, and then it's really painful every month after.
Every month, yeah.
Writing that check. So someone asked about it, doing a quick video on this, and I figured I'd share a few.
Yeah.
I'll share a few terms, and then we can dive into them.
Okay.
These matter on residential. They matter on commercial. They're just for different reasons. You got your cap rate.
Okay.
If you want to write them down, we've got your factor rate.
Okay.
Debt coverage ratio.
Okay.
And I mean, those are the main ones.
Okay. All right. It's interesting. None of those I care about, but let's get into them. Let's get into the math. Let's talk about the reason why you look at these. So let's talk cap rate first. Obviously, if people don't recall, you do a lot of stuff in the multifamily space. Cap rate is a very consistent metric in that space. Well, why don't you go ahead and define it and give us the basic math?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about it as if we're talking just about percentages.
Sure.
This is a percentage representation. It's your cash on cash return when you pay cash.
Right.
A lot of people use it to determine a value. That's not why I care about it. It's important to know how to come up with a value. The equation, you take your NOI, your cash flow if you had no debt, divided by the rate of return people want to get, and that gives you a valuation. That's not why I care about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that matters is that's your dividend expressed as a percentage.
Got it.
So if I buy a $100,000 property and it has a $6,000 NOI, that means that my dividend, if I pay cash, is 6% return. It'd be $6,000 a year on $100,000 investment.
Right.
Here's why it matters, though, and it's a little different than why a lot of people use it. Your rate factor, your factor rate, which is that second piece, is your true cost of capital expressed as a percentage.
Okay.
And so when you're borrowing money, most people say, well, I'm borrowing at 6%. My cap rate is 7. I'm going to make money. Well, that's not true, because you typically have this thing called amortization where you're paying down your loan. And so for those,
they're not interest only loans typically. Yes.
Typically not. And so your amortization, if you do a 15-year, 25-year, 30-year, your payment's going to be different.
Yes.
And so for those note takers out there, your rate factor, your mortgage factor rate is your annual principal and interest divided by the loan amount. That's all it is. And what that's going to give you is a true cost of capital on that money. And so you have your cost in one hand and your dividend in the other. And if you want to borrow money, you probably want your dividend to be higher than your cost. That's the whole premise of me borrowing money and how I underwrite. It's like, do I have a positive margin on the debt or a negative margin on the debt?
Yeah. It's often called in industry speak negative carry, right? Where the cost of capital is higher than the return. It's a negative carry. That's bad.
Yeah. And there's different types of negative, right? Like some of the negative could be going towards debt pay down. So it's not like it's lost, but it's a realized cost. And so like example, $1 million loan at 6% interest only is $60,000 a year.
Yep.
Amortized, it's $71,900. So you do the math, you take the 71.9 divided into a million, your cost of capital is 7.19%. So this is why cap rate matters to me. I just need to make sure that my dividend is higher than that, or my cash and cash return is going to go down.
Okay.
If it's higher than the cost of capital, it's going to get bigger. So
makes total sense. Okay. All right. And then let's hit DCR.
Yeah, your debt coverage ratio. So this looks at your net cash flow if you had no debt, and then what your actual debt payment's going to be. So If I buy a property and it brings in $100,000 a year in rent, and after all the expenses before my mortgage, I'm left with 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
How much bigger or smaller is that number than my debt payment? That's what it's looking at. So if I have 60,000 of net income and $30,000 of payments per year for debt, that would mean I would have a 2 debt coverage ratio. As simply put as I can, if you have a 2 debt coverage ratio, one of the two is going to go to the debt. One of them is going to go to you. Every time you make a payment, you save a payment. If you're at a 1.5 debt coverage ratio, it means every time you make a payment, you save half a payment. And so it looks at your risk profile. That's why debt coverage ratios are necessary for commercial loans.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make sure you at least save a little bit of the next mortgage payment so you're not going to go bust. It's a room for error.
Yeah. And DCR has become, or DCR debt coverage ratio has become a lot more common as non-banks, lending institutions really start to do more loans, right? It's really spun up since the GFC, really spun up since COVID. DSCR lenders are a lot more common, right? There's a lot of people that say, what happens after my 10 loans? I can't get any loans. Not true. You can go get hundreds of DSCR loans. There's not this mythical 10 cap, correct?
Yeah, but the main thing is you have to have margin. If you're buying a bunch of deals, and for like an example, let's say you buy a property and your mortgage payment is $20,000 a year, $1,600 and change a month, right? If your net income is $20,000 a year, you have no cash flow. You're at a 1 debt coverage ratio. There are lenders that will accept that. Yeah. They're probably going away.
Yeah, but they won't be around long.
But you can see the risk there. Your best case scenario, because they underwrite pretty optimistically, is break even. Mm-hmm. So it's your job as a operator or getting started with your first rental or second rental or wherever you're at in your journey to at least understand the basics of the math, because just because someone will give you the loan doesn't mean you should take it. That's a good way to get into an alligator pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, let me kind of go through my journey, and again the math, and I'll kind of share with you my evolution. Mm-hmm. So again, folks, I'm an accountant, I'm an econ, I'm an MBA, so I had all the worksheets. I think the first worksheet I built had 3 tabs and amortization schedules and tax deductions and all this other nonsense, which I ultimately deleted because it was a complete waste. But if we just stay at the simplicity, the first thing I believed in, which again, I want to stress, I don't believe in, and really stopped believing in it after year 3, but I want to go through the full evolution. The first one was the 1% rule. So what is that? If you're going to buy a $100,000 house, you need to rent for $1,000 or more. It's that simple. If it's a $200,000 house, it needs to rent for $2,000 or more. It is both simple to understand, sexy because it feels like you're doing something, but one of the most dangerous metrics I have ever seen. I have seen the 1% rule hurt people because they don't realize it pulls them into the wrong side of town in most cases. It doesn't include things like HOA. It doesn't include other things that maybe not go into a normal calculation. So I fundamentally hate the 1% rule, and I've hated it for decades. But that was my first thing. I bought Norris Drive because, I bought it for $107 and it rented for $10.95, which is just over the 1% rule. So I can't forget where I started. And that was my beginning, the 1% rule.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with that is if you get $1,000 rent on a $100,000 property in Texas, your taxes are going to be a much bigger percentage of your income than if you buy in maybe a place like Tennessee. Yes. Or Washington or California. It's all different. And so you're looking at the margin between the gross and the purchase price, but what are the additional expenses along the way?
Yeah. So where I went from there, my next calculation was both simple and I believe beautiful. I call it yield. Some people call it return on capital. Some call it return on cash, ROC. But basically it's the only question I have is how much money am I putting out and how much money am I getting back? So what does that look like? It's just 2 numbers. The top number called the numerator, right? It is my expected yearly cash flow. So it's rent minus all expenses, mortgages, taxes, insurance, property management, reserves for bad debt, utilities that you're paying, like all of it, right? What is my expected yearly cash flow? That's the numerator. The denominator is what money am I putting in the building to make it rent ready? So that's usually three numbers: your down payment, your closing costs, and any make ready, right? And the reason these numbers are important to me because it allows me to compare a turnkey unit with a complete gut job. It allows me to understand how I can use creative financing because maybe I'm coming into this thing with very low down and a seller second at 0%. It allows me to flex my creativity and still get to a number that allows me to compare it to any other deal. And then lastly, when you get this right, you can take one property and do 3 different deal structures and see how the yield happens. For example, one of the things you might do today with a motivated seller is get a inspection report. And let's say, for example, the inspection report has $8,000 in stuff, and the seller agrees to it. Do you A, ask for an $8,000 credit, or B, do you have them do the repairs so you don't have to? Well, guess what? Do the math, right? And see how it impacts the yield. And again, I could tell you in most cases, having the seller do the repairs so you don't have to fund $8,000, right? Because that's all cash, right? It's not levered. Usually is going to be the right answer. But yeah, the thing that I use today and have used for 20 years plus is simply yield. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up, is the reason I like it is I can compare a single family home to an apartment building. I can compare a single family home with a fourplex because everything to me turns into a yield of basically how hard is my money working? So that's what I use predominantly.
Love it. Yeah, our metrics definitely work together because when I'm looking at what a cap rate is and what a debt coverage, or not debt coverage ratio, what a rate factor is, so my cost of capital and my dividend, I can get different debt products on a house
Sure.
than I can on an apartment building. And sometimes on duplex, triplex, fourplex, there are better products.
Yeah, for sure.
Than on the apartment. And sometimes it's the opposite. And so, when you're calculating your yield, a big portion of that is what is going towards your loan product out of your NOI.
You know what? The last one I want to ask you about, and this really came up in the iced coffee hour. Some people watch the iced coffee hour and they did the math. And they're basically saying Zuber is a horrible investor because his return on equity is like 3%. So, I don't know. I guess I'll let you go first. Do you ever look at return on equity in your portfolio? Because you're still in growth mode. Is that a consideration or? It
matters. Return on equity matters. However, to say you're a bad investor because you get a 3% return on equity it's a novice's opinion. My typical deals are in the 4 range, like return on equity, and I'm happy because earning 4% on a big number is a heck of a lot better than earning a 15% return when you're doing all the work and on a small number.
Yeah, the thing that I want to say here, and I didn't say it in that one because I wasn't asked, is return on equity was a consideration that I looked at yearly, at least yearly, for 15 years. Because again, I was in build mode, right? Because I wanted to make sure I was using my equity to keep stacking bricks and stacking wins. However, once you win the game, I'm not as interested in maximizing the velocity or the use of my equity. And again, I don't live on equity. I live on cash flow. And, if you're going to go extract equity, your cash flow is going to go down, at least in the short term, right? So,
and why rock the boat? I mean,
if you win the game, sometimes stop playing, right?
Well, right. And is an extra 1% great? Yeah. But is that going to change your life? No. And you have achieved stability.
Yeah.
Right. You would not have stability if you uprooted your portfolio and moved it into something else. It would take you 12 to 18 months to really feel comfortable. And it might be longer. I don't feel like I really understand a property until I've owned it for multiple years.
That's the big thing, right? If you're getting, especially what I'm looking at doing is picking up busted apartment buildings again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got to be ready for 2 years of pain, right? I think Ken McElroy used this as an example. There was a building he was looking at that was 5% occupancy, and he was kind of running through the numbers, and he's like, there's the down payment, there's the repair cost. And then he said something very important. There's negative cash flow for 2 years, right? As you turn this building. And again, those are heavy. Like if you buy a busted building, what you guys don't realize is you're going to have to do 2 complete turns. You're going to take it from the slumlord condition to something above that. And then you're going to have to do it again. You don't go from slumlord to class A, right? You're not going to get a mix of tenants. And it's years, to your point, to finally turn an asset.
Yeah. And on that note, when I bought my 39 unit 5 years ago, it was gangland.
Mhm.
And it took 2 to 3 years to get rid of all of the gang activity, get rid of all the drugs. And then it took another 2 years after that to get the tenant base to a great place, because when you're getting rid of that activity, right? The people that are going to rent there, okay, you're not renting it to new druggies, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's just a step up,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're mentioning. And I
exactly.
lived that. And
Yeah.
and now those people have moved out because I've continued optimizing the building and making it nicer. And so some of those people were good and they stayed, but a lot of them ended up moving other places
Sure.
because the rent went up as it got better. And
Yep. Yeah,
so
like everybody, like their spreadsheets always say, oh, they're at $500. I'm going to take them to 1,000. No, you're going to go from 500 to 650 and 650 to 795 and 795 to 9.25. And it's going to take you, 4 years and a couple of turns to get to this 950 or whatever I said in the beginning.
yeah,
It takes time.
It can happen, but it will take time. I think anybody who says that return on equity is unacceptable or it's too low, they just haven't lived it enough.
Yeah,
Personally,
I agree.
because why would you rock the boat if you can make $500,000 a year of cash flow and you have everything you want?
Yeah.
Like that, it's just coming from a perspective of they don't have it, but they know what they would do if they did.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Any other numbers or math that was talked about in this accountability group?
Well, those are the main ones I would encourage people to focus on. If you can understand those few things, you can underwrite any deal,
Yep.
income producing deal on your calculator. And I underwrite all of my deals like this because I know what my cost of capital is. I've got a lender who's on a 25-year AM and they're 1 point lower than everyone else. So I know what my cost of capital is.
Nice.
For my 30-year AM lender, for my construction loan, for the residential stuff. Like once you start to understand how to calculate those, you don't need a big spreadsheet.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
the best part about understanding why those numbers work the way they do, not just being able to punch it in, but knowing, is because you can call other people out when they're trying to sell you a bunch of lies.
Yeah.
And
Amen. Amen. Yeah. When you really understand the math, I think there's a couple of principles. Simple is better than complex.
Mhm.
What I would suggest most people do is get comfortable with one of these metrics, Cody's, mine, someone else's, because the beauty of the math isn't the math. It's the ability to compare deals and understand which one is better, right? The math for math's sakes is useless. But if I can take 15 properties, do the same exercise and say this property's the best because the math said so, awesome. The second thing about math is when you really get advanced. So this is like step 3. You can go into a single deal and underwrite it with 3 or 4 different purchase options and deal structures and see which one is best, right? So again, the thing I'll close with is if your worksheet is multiple tabs and advanced calculations and time value of money and all of this other stuff, is too hard, too complex. Stop it. It's really should be simpler. You agree?
Yeah, totally agree. You don't need all that stuff. I've got buddies and they're doing all that stuff and they're always busy because they're shooting themselves in the foot with these crazy calculations that don't matter.
Yeah.
Last thing I will share, and this is just for people that were taking notes, because if you hear this for the first time, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense for most people. If your cap rate is higher than your cost of capital, your yield will be higher than your cap rate. If your cost of capital is higher than your cap rate, your yield will be below the cap rate. And so 100% of the time, if you're using the right inputs, that math is correct. And I've seen listings where the cap rate's like 5% and they say 9% cash on cash return. It's like, that's literally impossible. Can't happen with the existing financing.
Cody, you are amazing. Thanks again for being a part of school. Thanks again for running our Saturday accountability group, Gen Z Plus. It is an amazing time, an amazing commitment. So thank you for that. Where can people find you?
Cody Davis Business Adventures on YouTube.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thanks.